I'd been working late again, my feet sore from the constant running around, when I walked through the front door and froze. There, in the living room, was Lauren, wearing my dress, the one I'd been saving for months, the one I'd been counting down the days to wear to my engagement party. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just any dress. It was an exclusive designer piece I'd splurged on after saving up for what felt like forever. A dress that was mine. And there she was, standing in front of the full-length mirror, spinning slowly, her fingers tracing the fabric like it was hers. The sleek satin shimmered under the dim living room light. But the sight of her wearing it, looking at herself with that smirk on her face, made my blood boil. "Lauren, what the hell are you doing?" I snapped, the words coming out sharper than I meant. She turned around like she was surprised I was home, and that smug grin stretched wider. "Oh, Alice, I didn't think you'd mind. It's just a dress." I couldn't even respond right away. Shock had my mind racing, but all I could think was how this was mine. That's when my parents walked in, like they'd been waiting in the wings for the whole performance. And in an instant, they were all smiles, like nothing was out of the ordinary. "You didn't think Lauren would wear it, did you?" My mom's voice was too calm, like I was the one overreacting. I opened my mouth, but my dad beat me to it. "We told Lauren she could wear it, Alice. She really loved it, and she's part of the family too, you know." "What?" I stood there, feeling the heat rise in my chest. "So you knew about this? And you're just okay with it?" Mom waved her hand, dismissing my question like it was no big deal. "Oh, come on, Alice. It's just a dress. You could share it." I couldn't even believe I was hearing this. My dress. For my engagement. And they were telling me to share it? Like I was a kid again, giving up my favorite toy. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't the first time Lauren had done something like this. She'd taken my things before, little things, things I'd worked for, things that had been mine. And no one ever said a word. My anger twisted into something deeper, something bitter. Was I really supposed to let this slide? Just like all the times before? Not anymore. I swallowed hard. "Lauren, take off the dress." She laughed, like I was joking. "What's the big deal, Alice?" "It's just a dress." The nerve. But it wasn't just the dress. It was everything. The constant feeling of being overlooked, of being told what I should accept. I stared her down. "Take it off now. Or I'll cancel my engagement party." The room went silent. Everyone just stared at me, waiting. My parents' faces went from confused to annoyed, like I was the one causing a scene. But I didn't care anymore, not after everything. Lauren threw the dress off, her face twisted with anger. "You're such a drama queen, Alice." She tossed Alice's grandmother's earrings into my hands as though she was giving me some kind of consolation prize. I wanted to scream. Instead, I felt this weird mix of relief and guilt. But I wasn't backing down. Not this time. I was done being the nice one. Lauren's eyes flicked from me to the dress, and then she laughed. Not a little chuckle. No, this was a full-on mocking laugh, like she'd just heard the funniest joke in the world. She tugged at the hem of the dress, letting it bunch up around her thighs as she turned to look at herself again in the mirror. "Alice, come on, it's just a dress. You're acting like I'm stealing your life or something." The words hit me like a slap. I could feel my fist clenching at my sides. Stealing my life? Was that really how she saw it? How they all saw it? Like I was being unreasonable for wanting to keep something that was mine, my dress, my moment. "No," I said, my voice tight, forcing the words through gritted teeth. "It's not just a dress. It's my dress. And I'm telling you, right now, take it off." Lauren raised an eyebrow, clearly amused by my frustration. "Oh, come on. You're really gonna make a scene over a stupid piece of fabric?" My heart was pounding, but I wasn't backing down. Not this time. I squared my shoulders and took a step forward, locking eyes with her. "You have 2 seconds to take it off, or I swear to God I'll cancel my engagement party." The silence in the room was thick, suffocating. My parents' faces were frozen in disbelief, like they didn't know how to react. But I could see their annoyance creeping in, the way their brows furrowed just slightly, the edge of impatience in their posture. They hated this. They hated me making a scene. "Alice, stop!" My mom's voice was laced with that same dismissive tone she always used when I was being dramatic. "Lauren's had a tough time lately. She's just trying to feel good about herself. Yeah, Dad chimed in, his voice too calm. Like he didn't really care. We understand, Alice. Lauren's had her eye on that dress for a while. She needs it more than you right now. I felt the floor drop out from under me. The words hung there in the air, thick and suffocating. Lauren needs it more than me? Are you kidding me? I shot back. The words coming faster now, angrier. I'm the one who saved up for it. I'm the one who's been planning this day for months. And you're just okay with her walking around in it like it's hers? Lauren shifted uncomfortably in the dress, the fabric swishing as she looked over at my parents, her eyes wide with that fake innocence. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I just really like the dress, you know. It's so pretty on me. I never get attention like this. Not like you do, Alice. I could feel the hot anger rising again. Take it off. For a long second, Lauren just stood there, her hands at her sides, as though she were still weighing her options. And then, as if she'd been waiting for me to break, she finally shrugged. Fine, whatever. You're so touchy about everything. She pulled the dress off with a dramatic huff, throwing it into my hands like I was the one who'd done something wrong. But as she did, her face twisted into a nasty, childish frown. You're such a drama queen, Alice. It's just a dress. The insult stung, but I wasn't going to let it rattle me. Not now. Not after everything. She turned her back to me, yanking out the pair of earrings my grandmother had passed down to me. She tossed them at me, too, with the same careless air. Here. Happy now? I held the earrings in my palm, staring at them. They felt cold, foreign, almost like a gift from someone I didn't even recognize. It was too much, too fast, and I couldn't tell if I was relieved or angry anymore. Maybe both. Maybe I'd been holding this inside for so long. I didn't know which emotion was in charge anymore. But then I realized something, a quiet, dangerous realization that bubbled up in my chest. This wasn't just about a dress. It never had been. It was about everything I'd let slide for years. All the little ways Lauren had stepped into my life, taken things I cared about, and walked away like it didn't matter. Well, it mattered. I mattered. I straightened up and took a deep breath, setting my shoulders back, letting the weight of everything I'd just done settle over me. There would be no more backing down. No more pretending. I'm done letting you take what's mine, I said, the words more steady than I'd expected. And if you think I'm going to keep letting you walk all over me, you're wrong. Lauren's eyes narrowed, but I didn't care. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of what might happen. This was my moment, and I was taking it back. Mike and I were on the couch, just getting comfortable after a long day, when the doorbell rang. I barely glanced at the clock. It was late. Too late for a social visit. But when Mike looked at me with a raised eyebrow, I sighed and stood up. I'll get it, I muttered. I didn't expect to find my parents standing in the doorway when I opened it. Their faces were a little too calm, a little too expectant. Alice, we need to talk, my mom said, before I could even ask what they were doing here. I wanted to slam the door. I really did. But I was already too tired to fight it. I stepped aside to let them in, trying to ignore the knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. Mike gave me a quick, concerned look, but stayed quiet, letting me handle it. I appreciated that, but I wasn't sure I could. What's going on? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. My dad took a deep breath, like he'd been practicing what he was going to say. Then, as if the world's worst idea was totally normal, he said, "We think Lauren should be included as a co-bride at your wedding." I blinked, unsure I'd heard him right. A what? A co-bride, my mom repeated, like it was no big deal. You know, someone to share the spotlight. It'll make the day feel more inclusive. More of a family affair. I stood there for a second, trying to process. It felt like someone had just slapped me across the face. You're kidding, right? This is my wedding, not a family reunion. Mike shifted beside me, the tension obvious in his shoulders as he stood up, stepping closer. Alice's wedding isn't for anyone but her, he said firmly, looking straight at my parents. We've made plans. The last thing we need is someone else trying to hijack it. My dad's face hardened, his voice suddenly more clipped. It's not about hijacking anything, Mike. It's about family, and Lauren has needs. She's been through a lot. I turned to look at him, the blood rushing to my face. Needs? That was the word he used? Like Lauren was some kind of fragile thing, incapable of standing on her own without stealing what was mine. Are you telling me that you seriously think I'm going to let Lauren take over my day? I asked, the words coming out louder than I meant. This is my wedding. The one I've been planning for months, and you think I'm just going to share it? Mike was quiet beside me, but I could feel his anger rising too. My parents didn't seem to notice, though. They just looked at each other, exchanging one of those knowing glances that sent a chill down my spine. You know we've already made plans, my mom said, her tone matter-of-fact. We've already ordered a dress for Lauren. A beautiful one, just like yours. I felt the room spin. A dress. A new dress for Lauren. Of course, this had nothing to do with family or inclusivity. It had everything to do with them wanting to push me aside. Are you out of your minds? I could hear my voice shaking now, but I didn't care. You really think I would just let Lauren walk down the aisle with me, wearing the same damn dress, on my wedding day? Mike stepped in front of me, his jaw tight. This isn't up for negotiation. We're not going to let you turn Alice's wedding into something else. But my parents weren't done. They were just getting started. This isn't just about a dress, Alice. The words felt like they were suffocating me. I could hear the words they'd always used. The way they'd twisted everything around, trying to make it sound like my needs didn't matter. That everything was a collective decision. Unity, I choked out. What kind of unity is it when you're telling me to give up my moment for Lauren? She's not the one who's getting married. I am. Mike took my hand, his grip tight. I could feel him trying to steady me, but the anger in me kept bubbling up, threatening to spill over. Listen, my dad said, raising his hands in that irritating, calm way of his. We just want what's best for everyone. You don't want to start a family feud over something so small, do you? I stared at him, disbelief crawling up my throat. Small? This isn't small. This is my wedding. I think you're blowing this out of proportion, my mom added, her voice full of that condescending softness. You've been so focused on your perfect day that you've forgotten about the people who matter. I felt the weight of everything pressing down on me. Everything I'd been ignoring for so long. The guilt, the expectations, the endless manipulation that had been coming from every angle, from the moment I decided to get engaged. I looked at Mike, who was standing firm beside me, his expression sharp. And for the first time, I knew I wasn't alone in this. He wasn't going to let them steamroll me. I let out a shaky breath. The room went quiet. My parents' faces twisted, their annoyance simmering just beneath the surface. They weren't used to me fighting back like this, and that was exactly why I had to keep fighting. After my parents left, the weight of everything hit me like a brick. It wasn't just their manipulation. It was the way they'd always tried to control everything. The wedding wasn't the first time they'd tried to bend me to their will, and it probably wouldn't be the last. But this was different. I couldn't let it go on like this. There had to be a reason for all of it, right? Why they kept pushing, why Lauren kept taking, why no one respected the things I worked for. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the phone in my hand, and for the first time in weeks, I knew exactly what I had to do. I dialed Aunt Mary's number, my fingers trembling slightly. I hadn't spoken to her in a while. She was the one who had always been there for me, quietly in the background. When she answered, her voice was warm, familiar, but tired. Alice, what's going on, sweetheart? I swallowed hard, knowing I was about to open up a can of worms. Aunt Mary, I need to ask you something about Mom. About her and weddings. There was a pause on the other end of the line. What's this about, hun? I hesitated, then took a deep breath. Did Mom ever try to take over Aunt Emma's wedding? There was a long silence, and then Aunt Mary sighed. You don't know, do you? Her voice wasn't filled with anger, just exhaustion. Alice, your mother has always done this. She took control of Emma's wedding, just like she's trying to take control of yours. It's a pattern, sweetie. She's always been like this, ever since I can remember. I felt like the floor was falling out from under me. What do you mean she stole the attention? The spotlight? Aunt Mary's voice grew softer. Not just the spotlight. She wanted everything. The dress, the guest list, the decorations. It was like she had to make it all about her. Emma had planned a quiet, intimate ceremony, but your mom turned it into a huge production. She even wore a dress that almost matched Emma's, right down to the fabric. Emma was devastated, but your mom just took over like it was her day. I was reeling, trying to process the weight of it all. My mom had done this before. She'd done it to her own sister. And now she was doing it to me. The realization hit harder than I expected. The same selfishness, the same need for control, the same suffocating push to claim what wasn't hers. Why didn't Aunt Emma ever say anything? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She didn't have the strength to fight back, Aunt Mary explained. Your mom always makes people feel like they have to give in for the sake of family. She calls it unity. But it's really just manipulation. It's always been like that. I leaned back in my chair, feeling a knot form in my stomach. So, this was it. This was my inheritance. This cycle of control, of making people feel guilty for having what was rightfully theirs. I wasn't going to let it happen again. Not to me, not to Mike. Aunt Mary, I said, the words suddenly clear in my mind. I need to stop this now. I can't let it happen to me, like it did to Emma. Listen to me, Alice, Aunt Mary warned softly. Your mom is good at making people feel guilty, but you can't let her take this from you. Don't let her drag you into the same trap. If you don't stand up now, you'll regret it. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I had to do something. I couldn't let the pattern repeat itself. After hanging up, I turned to Mike, who had been sitting quietly, letting me process everything. His expression was unreadable, but I could tell he was waiting for me to say something. I can't let them do this to me, I said. The words coming out stronger than I thought they would. I'm not letting Mom take over my wedding. Not like she did with Aunt Emma. I need to do this on my own. Without them, Mike nodded slowly. Then we'll do it, Alice. We'll make sure your day is exactly how you want it. It felt like a weight had lifted just hearing him say that. For the first time, I wasn't carrying the burden of their expectations alone. I need help, I said, pacing the floor now. I need to start planning this without them involved. I'm going to find someone independent who won't let them push me around. Mike gave me a smile that was both supportive and determined. We'll find someone who has your back. A wedding planner who won't let them take over. We'll get this done, just the way you want it. It was a small thing, but it was enough. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was starting to take control of this whole mess. I wasn't going to let my parents or Lauren or anyone else make this wedding something it wasn't supposed to be. I grabbed my phone again, this time searching for a wedding planner, someone who wasn't connected to my family's social circle, someone who could help me, not control me. This was my wedding, and I was finally going to make it mine. I sat at the kitchen table the next day, scrolling through wedding planners on my phone, feeling both exhausted and exhilarated. The moment I decided to take control, everything started to click into place. I needed someone who wouldn't be swayed by my family's drama, someone who would help me plan the wedding I wanted. Not one that made everyone else comfortable. That's when I found her, Nina Foster. Her website was clean, professional, and most importantly, independent. She didn't look like she was part of any of the circles my parents ran in. I quickly sent off an email, not really sure what to expect, but desperate for a change. Within hours, I had a response. She was available for a consultation. Mike and I met her the following week. She had this calm energy about her that immediately put me at ease. When she asked what I envisioned for my wedding, I actually had an answer. For once, it wasn't just a list of compromises I'd been forced to accept. I want something simple, I said, finally able to say it out loud. No family drama, no interference. Just Mike and me, surrounded by people who actually care. Nina nodded. I hear you. Let's start with a budget and a timeline. We'll make sure everything is done on your terms. It felt like the first real breath I'd taken in weeks. We spent the next hour going over the details. How much I wanted to spend. What kind of atmosphere I wanted to create. And how to make it all happen without my parents sticking their noses in. By the time the meeting was over, I felt a sense of relief I hadn't realized I'd been missing. That afternoon, Mike and I went to the bank, where I moved the wedding funds into an account that only we controlled. I didn't want my parents touching it. Didn't want them to think they could manipulate me into spending it on things I didn't want. This was my wedding, and it was time I acted like it. As we walked out of the bank, Mike squeezed my hand. You're doing the right thing, Alice. I nodded, but a part of me still felt the weight of the decision. What if they didn't accept it? What if they kept pushing, trying to make me feel guilty? The old guilt that had been drilled into me my whole life threatened to creep back in, but I shook it off. I couldn't keep living my life for them. Later that evening, as I was sorting through some emails for work, I got a notification that my boss had sent me something. I opened it quickly, expecting a routine update, but instead, my heart skipped when I saw the subject line. Event coverage going viral. It was about a recent event I'd worked on, something I'd been planning for months, pushing hard to get recognition in the fashion world. I hadn't realized it at the time, but the event had caught the attention of a lot of people. In the email, my boss confirmed that the coverage had blown up, gaining me new followers and putting my name out there in a way I'd never expected. I stared at the screen, letting the news sink in. My work was finally being seen. People were taking notice. It wasn't just the wedding planning, it was my career, my independence, all of it falling into place. Then it hit me. The moment I had decided to stand up to my parents, to take control of my wedding, was the same moment I was starting to find my voice in my career. It wasn't just about the dress or the guest list or my family. It was about claiming my own space, about setting boundaries and refusing to let anyone, even my parents, take that from me. I leaned back in my chair, feeling a small but powerful shift inside of me. I wasn't just reclaiming my wedding day, I was reclaiming my life, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was on the right path. Mike came over, glancing at my screen. "What's this?" I smiled, showing him the email. "Looks like my event went viral. People are noticing me, Mike. It's like everything's falling into place." He grinned, pulling me into a hug. "I'm proud of you. You're owning it." And I was. I wasn't waiting for permission anymore. I wasn't going to keep hiding in the background while everyone else took what was mine. I was going to step up, stand tall, and make sure this wedding, this moment, was all about us. Later that night, I sat down with Nina and mapped out the details of the wedding, seating arrangements, vendors, the timeline. All of it was now in my hands. There was something so freeing about making choices without worrying about what my parents thought was best. I was doing this on my terms, and for the first time in my life, I felt powerful doing it. The moment I opened my eyes the next morning, I felt a wave of dread wash over me. My phone buzzed relentlessly on the nightstand, a stream of notifications I already knew would be bad. I didn't want to look at it, but I knew I had no choice. I grabbed the phone, my thumb trembling as I unlocked it. There were dozens of texts, most from my parents, some from other relatives. All of them were berating me for what I'd done. "How could you do this to Lauren? This is family, Alice, not a competition. You're being selfish. Lauren needs this." I scrolled down, feeling my heart sink deeper with every message. But it wasn't just my parents. Aunt Mary, who had been my ally just days ago, had jumped into the mix too. "Alice, I know your mom can be controlling, but maybe letting Lauren be involved a little could calm things down. I just don't want this to tear the family apart." I read her message twice, the words stinging more than they should have. Wasn't she the one who'd warned me about my mom's control? Hadn't she been the one who told me to fight back? But now it was like she was siding with them. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Lauren. I braced myself before opening the message, already knowing what it would say. "I can't believe you're doing this to me, Alice. You're making me feel small by not letting me participate. This was supposed to be our day, but now it's just about you. You're making me feel invisible." Invisible? I felt my hands shaking. She wasn't the one being ignored. I was. I was the one being pushed out of my own celebration, and now she was acting like I was the villain. The tears that had been building up for days started to prick the back of my eyes, but I held them back. I wasn't going to cry over this. I wasn't going to let them win by making me feel guilty. I put the phone down and tried to focus on something else, anything else. But then an email came in from my boss. My stomach dropped, and I opened it immediately. "Hey, Alice, just checking in on the situation. I know it's been a tough week for you. I wanted to remind you to keep things professional, especially when it comes to family. Don't let drama distract you from your career goals. If you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out." I stared at the email for a long moment, the words blurring together. My boss was right. I couldn't let this affect my work, but how could I keep it professional when it was so personal? When my family, the people who were supposed to support me, were doing everything they could to tear me down? Just as I was about to put the phone down again, a notification from the local news station popped up. Somehow, photos from my relatives' social media had made their way to the local news. Breaking news: local woman creates drama over engagement dress. Family feud boils over. I felt my breath catch in my throat. It couldn't be. I clicked on the link, and there, on the screen, was Lauren, wearing my engagement dress, except it wasn't mine anymore. It had been altered, cut down to some flashy, scandalous version of what I'd originally bought. And there in the story was the headline: Fiancé excludes family. Engagement dress controversy sparks feud. My heart slammed into my chest, and the room seemed to spin. The article painted me as the villain, the one who was being unreasonable, the one who had made everything about me. There were photos of Lauren, looking so innocent and hurt. And of course, the family was supporting her. The media had spun it into something ugly, and I was at the center of it all. I could feel the blood rushing to my face, hot and furious. This wasn't just a family problem anymore. It was a public one. They had taken this everywhere. They were trying to destroy me, trying to make it look like I was the one who'd done something wrong, when all I'd done was stand up for myself. I leaned forward, my hands pressing into my thighs, trying to steady my breathing. The shame, the anger, the hurt, it all rushed through me like a tidal wave. I could feel the weight of the public shaming, the way it sliced into me. But it also made something else clear. This was the moment. If I backed down now, I'd be nothing more than a doormat, a pawn in their game. I took a deep breath, then another, until the adrenaline steadied my hands. I wasn't going to let this break me. I couldn't. I opened my social media accounts and locked them down. I turned off notifications from family. Then I called Nina, the wedding planner I'd hired. "We need to get ahead of this," I said when she picked up. "We need to make sure this doesn't spiral further." She was quick and efficient, asking all the right questions, setting up a plan to manage the backlash before it got worse. But as the conversation continued, something else clicked in my mind. I couldn't just sit back and let them tear me down in the press, in the family, in my own life. If they wanted a fight, they were going to get one. I wasn't backing down anymore. Not from them, not from anyone. I had my life, my wedding, my career, and I was going to protect them. After the media frenzy, Mike and I spent the next couple of days working non-stop to shield our wedding from the chaos my family had created. I'd been living in a whirlwind of texts, emails, and social media drama, but now I was determined to take control. I sat down at my laptop, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. First, I secured every wedding vendor account, photographers, caterers, florists. I set up new passwords, ones my parents and Lauren couldn't guess, and made sure to lock everything down so they couldn't interfere. They wouldn't get to push their way in anymore, not without my say-so. Mike was right beside me, checking contracts and reminding me to double-check everything. He'd already sent out firm emails to the vendors, reaffirming that our wedding was private and that all decisions would go through us. No more surprises, no more last-minute changes. I could almost feel the pressure lifting as we took control, one decision at a time. The next step was social media. I'd been avoiding the constant flood of comments and messages, but it was time to draw the line. I locked my profiles down, kept everything private, only allowing the people I trusted to see what was going on. I turned off the comment sections on everything and made sure nothing could be shared without my approval. For the first time in days, my phone felt quiet. The peace was a small victory. Then, just as I thought I was finally getting a handle on things, my phone buzzed again. My heart dropped when I saw it was a message from my mother. "Alice, what's going on? Why are you shutting us out of this? We're just trying to help you, but now you're making things so difficult. I'm just trying to be a good mother, but it's like you're pushing me away. You've hurt your family enough. I hope you're happy I read the message twice," my stomach twisting. It was the same guilt trip they'd always pulled, making me feel like I was being selfish for wanting something for me. I took a deep breath and typed out a response, the words coming faster than I expected. "Mom, this wedding is mine to plan. It's not a family production. I've been trying to keep things together, but it's been impossible with everyone else pushing in. If you can respect my wishes and boundaries, we can talk. But I'm done with the manipulation." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. My fingers trembled, but I didn't look back. I wasn't going to let her guilt me into backing down. This was my decision, my life. I sat there for a few moments, staring at the screen, but nothing came back immediately. A part of me felt like I was waiting for a response that would change everything, but I quickly realized I didn't need her approval anymore. "I'm proud of you," Mike said quietly, his hand on mine. I turned to look at him, and I could see the pride in his eyes. It feels different, like I'm finally doing something for me. We spent the rest of the day refining the wedding details, figuring out exactly what we wanted. Every choice, every decision was about us. I finally started to picture our day without the cloud of family drama hanging over it. We looked through venues, catering menus, even the music playlist. It felt so right to have it all be ours. I wasn't letting anyone push me into something I didn't want. For the first time since the chaos started, I felt this quiet power growing inside me. I wasn't just defending my wedding. I was defending my right to have the life I wanted. I didn't need to appease anyone. I didn't need their permission to make my own decisions. And in that moment, I realized something else. The more I stood firm, the more I felt like I was finally seeing myself clearly. For the longest time, I'd been defined by my family's expectations, by their control over what I could and couldn't do. But now I was becoming someone new, someone who wasn't afraid to speak up, someone who wasn't going to back down just to make everyone else happy. I wasn't just reclaiming my wedding, I was reclaiming my life. And for the first time, it didn't feel like a battle, it felt like a victory. The day before the wedding was supposed to be peaceful, right? A calm before the storm, everyone getting ready for the big day. But of course, my parents had other plans. I was in the middle of last-minute details at the venue when the familiar ring of the doorbell echoed through the quiet house. I knew exactly who it was before I even opened the door. There they were, my mom and dad, standing on the doorstep, looking like they were about to have an important conversation, a conversation they thought I was going to listen to. "We need to talk," my mom said, her tone icy and clipped. I felt the old pressure building in my chest, but I didn't let it show, not this time. "There's nothing more to talk about, Mom. I've made my decision." She stepped closer, her eyes narrowing. "Alice, you're hurting us. You're hurting Lauren. We're trying to be understanding, but this is a family event." I crossed my arms, keeping my distance. This isn't about unity. This is about me having a wedding I actually want. And it's not about Lauren trying to hijack it like she did before. Dad's face hardened, his voice rising slightly. "We're all just trying to make sure this day goes well for everyone, Alice. Lauren needs this. She's been through a lot. You can't just make this day all about you." "You're wrong," I said, the words coming out sharper than I meant. "If you can't understand that, then I'm sorry, but you need to back off." My mom's eyes softened, but only for a second. Then she hit me with the guilt. "We're just trying to be there for you, Alice. You don't get it. Lauren and I are hurt. You're shutting us out for the sake of your perfect day." The guilt, the shame, all of it flooded me like a tidal wave. But I fought it down. I wasn't going to cave. Not now. Not when I was so close to finally having something that was all mine. "I'm not sorry for wanting something that's mine," I said, my voice steady. "This is my wedding. I get to decide who's in it. And I've made that decision." Their faces were a mix of disappointment and anger, but they didn't argue anymore. They stood there for a few more moments, as if waiting for me to apologize, to bend to their will. But I didn't. Finally, my dad sighed. "Well, you've made your choice." "Yeah," I said, looking them both in the eye. "I have." They left shortly after, not saying another word. The door clicked shut behind them, and I felt a wave of exhaustion crash over me. But there was also this strange sense of calm. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had control. I leaned against the wall for a moment, closing my eyes and taking a breath. And then my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Karen, a family friend I trusted. My heart dropped as I read the message. "I just heard Lauren's planning another stunt tomorrow. Be ready. Another stunt." My mind raced. What else could she possibly do to try and ruin this day? I wasn't going to let her, anyone, get away with it again. I immediately texted Nina, my wedding planner, letting her know what was going on. She'd been nothing but professional and supportive from the start. and I was confident she'd help make sure nothing went wrong. Within minutes, she responded, "Already on it. We've secured the venue and hired extra security for the day. Don't worry, Alice, we've got it covered." A small part of me relaxed, but another part stayed on edge. I knew Lauren. I knew she wouldn't stop just because I told her no, but I was ready now. I wasn't going to let her or anyone ruin this day. The calm before the storm wasn't about to take me by surprise. It was just a moment of silence before the chaos tried to show up again. But I was prepared. Mike came into the room as I was pacing, checking my phone one last time. "Everything okay?" he asked, his voice low but steady. I nodded, looking up at him. "Yeah, it's going to be fine, but we have security in place for tomorrow. I just want to make sure nothing messes this up." Mike smiled and took my hand. "I've got your back, Alice. We've got this." And for the first time, I really felt like we did. The weight of my family's expectations, the constant pressure to give in, was starting to feel like it belonged to someone else, not me. Tomorrow was my day, and I wasn't going to let anyone take it from me. The morning of the wedding arrived, and I could barely believe it. After everything, I was standing at the edge of my day, the day that was supposed to be all mine. It wasn't going to be a family affair. It wasn't going to be about anyone else's needs or drama. It was my day, and today, I was taking control. When I walked into the venue, I saw it all laid out, beautiful and serene. The soft lighting, the flowers I'd handpicked, the music playing quietly in the background. It all felt like a dream. But as soon as I crossed the threshold, the coordinator stepped forward and with a smile made a very clear, very official announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Alice and Mike's wedding. Today, we recognize Alice as the sole bride." I could feel a weight lift off my shoulders. It was done. It was official. No one else could steal this moment from me. But then, as I moved further into the space, I saw them, my parents and Lauren, hovering near the front, eyes darting around like they were waiting for their moment to make their move. Lauren in particular stood there, her expression a little too eager, like she was just waiting for someone to acknowledge her. I could feel my heart rate pick up, but the security I'd arranged was already on it. As soon as my parents and Lauren tried to step into the spotlight, a couple of guards stepped forward, gently but firmly guiding them to the side. They put up a little resistance at first, but the message was clear. The spotlight was on me. Mike, waiting at the altar, looked up at me as I made my way down the aisle. His smile was the only thing I needed. He was here for me, just me, and that was everything. At my side, my grandmother stood proudly, her hand resting on my arm. She'd been my rock throughout all of this, offering quiet support, never once questioning my decisions. She gave me a soft smile as we made our way toward Mike, her presence like a warm shield around me. As I stood next to Mike, I felt the moment hit me. This was it, the vows, the commitment. This was mine. It was the first time in my life that I truly felt like I was standing in my own power. The ceremony passed in a blur, his vows, mine, the rings, the kiss. But I remember every word, every moment. I wasn't just marrying Mike. I was marrying myself too, claiming my life, my choices, and my future. No one could take this from me. When we walked down the aisle together, the applause felt different. It felt like it was for us, not just for a couple playing by the rules. I was done pretending, done trying to please everyone else. This was our moment. At the reception, everything felt like a celebration. The music was loud, the laughter was real, and Mike held me close as we danced. I felt the freedom in every step. My family, my parents, Lauren, kept to themselves in the background, quietly simmering, but it didn't matter. They weren't part of this. I was surrounded by people who truly cared, who respected me and my choices. I wasn't fighting anyone anymore. I was living. Later in the evening, I took a moment to step outside, alone for just a few minutes. The cool air wrapped around me, and I stood there, taking it all in. This was the life I was building. It wasn't going to be perfect, but it was mine, and that was all that mattered. When I walked back into the reception, I felt like a new version of myself, a version that no longer needed to ask for permission, a version that had finally, truly taken control of her life. I was ready for whatever came next, and for the first time, I knew I could handle it.